You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I am going to say something that is probably going to come across as controversial. And the reason why it's going to be controversial is because people are going to think, well, yeah, somebody actually did it. No, I think what happened with Jeffrey Epstein was, while it was heavily suggested by certain individuals, notice I said that it was suggested to him. How many times have we heard of people taking their own life via being bullied or it being constantly suggested to them? I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I think that Jeffrey Epstein took his life, though it was highly suggested to him that he probably needed to do it, because these 3 reasons are going to come across as pretty valid, while also at the same time reinforcing the idea that it wasn't entirely his idea to do this. Think about that for a second. It wasn't his idea to do these things. It was the simple fact of that people were telling him there are certain things that are going to happen to you if you don't do this. So, let's get into those reasons. Howdy, y'all. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. What we have here is a channel to communicate. I want you folks to be thinking by the time you leave my videos. Why? Because I'm tired of people talking via what other people tell them to think. So, watch my video and enjoy the chance to think for yourself. Okay, the first reason is the simple fact of Epstein would have normally have been in admin separation. Why? Because he's a high-profile individual with a lot of connections, and they didn't want him getting out there and getting roughed up because, well, he was a chomo. If you don't know what that term means, it's a prisoner terminology for anybody who does things to children, because you know he tasted his own goods. So, one of the first suggestions I think that was told to him was that if you don't do something like this, because we don't trust you, we're going to make sure that you end up in general population after you get all these convictions and everything handled. You're going to go to general population. Oh, and by the way, there are people that would probably never have even had to suggest that they could take him out, that would be going after him, A, because he's a chomo, B, because he's famous, so they want to get famous, internet famous. Or there's somebody in the crowd that wants a little extra money for their family, wants their family taken care of. They may not be able to get out easily after this, but their family can be well taken care of. Or other things can happen. So general population, that's a pretty scary thing for somebody like Jeffrey Epstein. So that's the first reason why he would have done this. Second, there are people that were politically connected to him. And they could have done other things, not just the general population, taking him out of admin separation, but they could have suggested, hey, politically, when we have power, we could suggest that maybe there are other countries that might want to convict you or have their hands on you for a trial, and you'll be in their custody, and we don't have control of what happens to you in those other countries. Political connections around the world. You don't think these people don't talk? You don't think that if somebody had gotten into power, and it didn't even necessarily have to be the president. Yes, the president would have had that power, but it could have been any number of people that could have gone, hey, this guy's got an international flavor to him, and while yes, we've got him convicted, we're going to get him back. We want to send him to these places to get convicted, and possibly it would have been a little bit more torture oriented, shall we say, of how he will be treated in those countries. That's something that may sound a little wild, and it's never been done really. I mean, it's probably been done a couple of times, but you don't think that wouldn't have happened in this case? There are foreign countries that wanted their hands on him. Hmm. Let's let him go to a country that we can do this without it being positive or being negative for us. And oh, if he gets tortured or whatnot happens to him, we don't care. That's the second reason. There is a third reason here to think about. In admin separation, especially if you get confinement like you do, you don't necessarily have to go into the cafeteria. Your food is delivered to you in a lot of instances, depending on how solitary that they have your existence. Well, you don't know what's going into that food. And they don't necessarily have to give you a quick poison. They can put stuff into the food that can cause you to have a long term illness before you die, which will be very painful. Or once in a while, there could be glass that gets put into your food. There are any number of ways that they can taint the food to make your life miserable. Think about that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be found in an autopsy. Who is in control of who does the autopsy? The Bureau of Prisons. Well, the Bureau of Prisons is a political organization, no matter what you think. The right person in the right place gets the right doctor to do the autopsy, and you never hear that it was any kind of poison or glass or anything like that. Epstein's last few months can be painful, exceedingly painful, to the point that he would want to do that to himself. That's the third reason. Epstein had a lot of enemies. Just by being caught, he had a lot of enemies. And he had a lot of people that did not want stories coming out. Now, you're saying, well, somebody did know. I honestly believe that he was given the opportunity. Doesn't necessarily mean that somebody had to go in there and do it. You tell somebody enough times, especially in these kinds of conditions, hey, if you don't do this, well, we're going to make your life miserable. Think about that for a minute. If you are in that situation where you know that you have all these enemies and you are not in a position to defend yourself, what are you going to do? Are you wanting to take the painful way out, or are you wanting to take the quick and get it over with way? That's probably what was going through his mind. I believe Cash Patel. I believe Dan Bongino on this. Why? Because there are all kinds of ways to psychologically break somebody down to the point that they are willing to do this to themselves. Don't think that somebody had to go into the cell and do everything. You can get somebody to do a lot of things to themselves and to others with the right psychological pressuring. Now, this may come across as controversial to those that are holding what could be considered a controversial viewpoint. But think about everything I just said. Can this not be deemed as a legitimate way to consider that, yes, Epstein took his own life, but it was a suggestion with ways to back it up? Now, while he may not necessarily have been sent to other places, poisoning and getting accidentally sent into general population, especially as a chomo, and a famous one at that, yes, those three things can be a good psychological torture to cause somebody to want to do this. I just wanted to give you some food for thought. This has been Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye. So, folks, that's the story that I wanted to bring you on this video. And I just wanted to say thank you again for coming by. Well, hit like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff if you don't mind. Help me out. So, y'all have a good day now. Bye.